Welcome to another miraculous edition of the Corey Margera Show, your Lord and Savior of eternal coolness, Corey Margera. And in this episode, I want to talk about an episode of one of my favorite shows, and I don't give a shit what anyone thinks. I love Family Guy. It is a great fucking show. It goes there. You know, there are some times where Family Guy says stuff that I don't agree with, but you just can't help but just love this show. This show is just, I don't know. It's just like, even though recent episodes, like the newer seasons, haven't been that good, haven't been that great and stuff like that, but it's just, there's a charm to Family Guy. There's just a charm to it that I can't put my finger on it. It's just something that you just love watching. It's just like a show that goes there, and I miss shows that go there, man. That's what we need more of today. But today I'm going to talk about a specific episode of Family Guy, which I absolutely thought was hilarious. I thought it was really cool. And it was of course, the Family Guy Simpsons crossover, which honestly, I stopped watching The Simpsons a long time ago. To me, The Simpsons I used to love The Simpsons as a kid, too. As a kid growing up, I used to love The Simpsons. I used to love The Simpsons video game from Konami. That arcade game, that was a great arcade beat 'em up. I do have it downloaded on my PSN. I still play it whenever I feel that good retro, nostalgic feeling. It's a great beat 'em up. I used to play a lot of The Simpsons Hit and Run. I'm not a fan of Grand Theft Auto, Saints Row, all those ghetto juvenile games where you just steal cars and free roam and shit like that. I'm not a big fan of those types of games. But I did love The Simpsons Hit and Run. I loved it. I just loved going around. And I think one of the biggest reasons I loved it was because I was a huge fan of the show when it came out. It came out in 2003. I literally just stopped watching The Simpsons around like 2004, 2005, because it just wasn't the same show. It felt like a show that just should have like stopped when it was just great. When it was good, it just should have stopped. It just wasn't like the type of show that could have continued. That is just, because I loved it. Even though I was more of a Beavis and Butthead, South Park guy, I still love The Simpsons. But I definitely prefer Family Guy. And this episode is it's more catered towards Family Guy fans more than Simpsons fans. I just love it. I do think it's just hilarious. How Peter and Homer are just two completely lovable idiots. Homer's more lovable than Peter is, because Peter has become a bit of a piece of crap in later seasons. He's become a bit of a douchebag, but he's still just so entertaining to watch. He's so stupid it's entertaining. Basically Lois and Marge hang out, but there's no real, because again, Lois and Marge are just not like characters that you really like care about. And I never cared about Marge when I was a huge Simpsons fan, and to this day I just don't care about Lois that much either. I think she's just a cougar. It's fucking nasty as hell. I'd fuck her in real life if she was a real woman too, because she's cute on the show. But yeah, one of the parts that I really love about this episode is how like Stewie and Bart hang out. Bart is like this rebellious badass. Stewie, it's hard for me to believe that Stewie would like, because it was just kind of hard for me to like see like how Stewie would actually enjoy Bart's like slingshot and like his prank phone calls, because Stewie is just, he's much more above that. He's much more smart, intellectual. His inventions, put Bart's to shame. But, and then again, Seth MacFarlane's never been, he completely changed Stewie over the years anyway, because he became gay. He's gay. He's not confused, he's gay. Alright, he's gonna be gay when he grows up. You just tell, like, if they did like a Family Guy years into the future where Stu was all grown up, he's gonna be gay. Alright? Obviously, even in the Untold Story, the Stewie Griffin, the Untold Story, Stewie, he had like a few minutes of sex with that chick at his job. So if he was straight, he would obviously, unless he didn't like her or something like that, he would obviously give her more than a few seconds. I mean, a few seconds, like literally. But I mean, he's gay. That's all I have to say. Um, but I loved his interaction with Bart in this. You know, he basically, one thing that kind of confused me is that early on in The Simpsons, I was a huge enough fan of The Simpsons to know this, even though I don't watch it anymore. I was a huge fan to know that Nelson stopped picking on Bart in later seasons. Like, he was a bully towards Bart, but he didn't really pick on Bart that much unless he would always just like laugh at Bart. He would never like really punch him or stuff like that. He would always punch like the other nerds on the show, because I remember Nelson used to pick on Bart, and then Bart basically, he ended up getting his revenge against Nelson because he was sick of getting beat up all the time. And it was one of my favorite episodes of The Simpsons because it was just very inspirational. And not to sound all cheesy and stuff like that, but it was just inspirational because, you know, you just find, because no one wanted to help him. His principal didn't want to help him. There was like this school code. You know, Skinner didn't want to help him. You know, his father Homer didn't want to help him. Marge was like the only person who actually cared. But, you know, like, Bart ended up getting his revenge. He ended up getting like the whole school against Nelson and the two bullies, and after that, Nelson never really picked on him again. Not in later episodes. Unless you know, since from 2005 to now, they started having Nelson beat up Bart again, which I've never seen. I don't know. I don't watch The Simpsons anymore, so I don't know if they changed it from all those years. But from when I started watching it, from the 90s up until like 2005, you know, Nelson never used to really Bart anymore. Nelson used to never really bother Bart anymore. He would always just like laugh at him, and stuff didn't go his way and stuff like that. But he would sometimes like beat up on the other kids. He was never, and plus Nelson, like, he kind of stopped really being like a huge bully. I think he just became like a douchebag, but he wasn't like a real bully anymore. Like after that, but I don't know. I haven't watched The Simpsons in years, so I don't know. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Basically, Stewie, he kidnaps Nelson. He kidnaps Principal Skinner. He kidnaps Apu. You know, he kidnaps that other kid. I keep forgetting his name. That skater-looking kid. And leaves him in the garage. It's just really funny, and it just shows you how, you know, Bart Simpson, and this also proved in you know, Bart is not really that bad of a kid, because I remember people used to always think back in the 90s Bart Simpson was a bad kid. He was basically no worse than Beavis and Butthead. Like, literally, compared to like Stewie and Eric Cartman, like, he's never done that much bad shit. I mean, he's done some pranks and some, you know, he's vandalized some stuff, and, you know, but he's never done anything that bad. Like, so I guess this was kind of like a nod to say, like, yeah, you know, Bart isn't as bad as Stewie, which they kind of did that on South Park too. They kind of did that with that Cartoon Wars episode where Bart stole the head off a statue, and Cartman was like, "Oh yeah, that's real hardcore." Not like what he did to Scott Tenorman. He fed his parents into he grinded his parents into chili and fed it to him, which was the infamous Scott Tenorman Must Die episode. And yeah, Bart Simpson never did anything that hardcore. So yeah, but I really did love this episode. It was really funny. It was just really cool too. It would kind of be like, you know, if they did like and this would probably never happen because it's live action, but if they did like a crossover of Family Guy meets Married with Children, that's something I would love to see. Or like Family Guy meets South Park. That would be an epic crossover. I would want to see that. I would love to see how, especially since Cartman, he hates Family Guy so much, and then he finds out that there's actual real people like Family Guy, that actually there's actually Family Guy is real. And then I would love to see Cartman's reaction to that, since he hates Family Guy so much. And I would kind of like to see Cal's reaction, since he's a Family Guy fan. I would like to see the reaction of what would happen. If Terrence and Phillip would show up or whatever. That's pretty much a crossover I would love to see. The American Dad Family Guy crossover is actually pretty cool too. I saw that and it was funny, but it wasn't as good as this. This I think they interacted much more. Uh, it was really good. Lisa was trying to help Meg out, and Lisa's basically like the Meg Griffin of Springfield too, because she's not like that popular. She's not like but even Lisa is better than Meg. I think that's one of the things that they were trying to hint at in this episode. But even Lisa, even though she's like a nerd and she's into like saxophone and stuff like that, music and stuff like that, and which people in Springfield aren't like too cultured to know about all that stuff. Which is another reason why I love Springfield. I wish I lived in a real life place like Springfield, like a nice suburban small town. But Lisa's kind of like the outcast. But even Lisa is better than Meg. Except there's this one part where Meg starts playing the saxophone, and she starts out pretty lame, but then she starts getting really good, and the birds are in the trees saying like, "Wow, she plays saxophone better than Lisa," and Lisa starts getting jealous, and it's real fun. It's some really cute stuff, man. It's good stuff. But my favorite is like Homer and Peter's interaction. Oh, I forgot to talk about Brian and Santa's little helper. Because Marge is like, dogs aren't allowed to eat at the dinner table, so he's got to go in the kitchen. Brian being an idiot. Because Brian needs to realize that, dogs are not like him. He's like the only dog of his kind. Him and his brother Jasper are like the only dogs of their kind. So he thinks that he tries to be like with his liberal self. He tries to, actually see if Stanley's little helper knows how to talk and stuff like that. And to me, this is like a perfect example of like you're bringing a smart, intellectual black man, a guy who has common sense. You're bringing him into the hood. You're bringing him to like a ghetto, ratchet environment where everyone there is stupid as fuck, and you're trying to like you're trying to be kind of like pro black and liberal and say, you guys, we gotta stick together. It's like it's pointless because those motherfuckers, just because they have the same skin color, they're stupid as fuck. They're not gonna do anything. They're stupid. Like you have to get like smart black people to team up with you and stuff like that. Which is like the same thing in this episode, because Brian, he's trying to like talk to Santa's little helper and stuff like that, and it's like so ridiculous too. It's like, dude, he's like a stupid dog. He's a stereotypical dog. He doesn't talk or anything. He's eating his fucking food, his Kibbles and Bits and whatever. And Brian and Chris are walking him one day in Springfield, and Brian decides to like let him free. He's like, you know what? You're a grown dog. You should be free. And so Sam's little helper, stupid as he is, he just runs into like the Krusty Burger, releases all the dogs because Krusty's like he's like feeding dogs to people and shit. It's real. It's good stuff. I recommend you watch it, more so if you're a Family Guy fan. But even if you're a Simpsons fan, I definitely recommend watching it. Because I believe this episode was made more for family. As a matter of fact, it's a Family Guy episode. It's not even a Simpsons episode. It's a Family Guy episode, and it's more for Family Guy fans. But yeah, like as far as like how they meet each other, I forgot to talk about that. Peter, he's being an idiot as usual. He decides to come up with his own comic strip, which isn't even a comic strip. It's just like it's like a one. It's not even a strip. It's just like a one cartoon, a one drawing that he does in a newspaper like every week or something like that, saying like jokes and stuff that have already been said before. And he becomes popular. Then he starts like talking about like, he says starts talking shit about women and like all the feminists and people are like hating him, and they're like rioting and throwing bricks in his window and stuff like that. And he's crazy. There's this one flashback he did, and it was so fucked up, but it was so funny at the same time. There's this female security guard who's like, watching the store. He goes into the store and there's a female police officer, security guard, and he's like, "Oh yes, I'm gonna steal a whole bunch of stuff now," and it was just so fucked up, but it was so funny at the same time. It was just, and that's the kind of humor that Family Guy. That's what I love about shows like Family Guy. They just go there. They don't care if they offend anybody. They just go there. You know, they make fun of black people, Hispanic people, Jews. They make fun of women. They make fun of everybody. They just don't give a fuck. That's what I love shows like that, because it's just like we just don't give a fuck. It's whatever. It's comedy, and you know, it's like people need to just man up. Like seriously, learn how to take a joke. It's not like seriously, but you know, I enjoyed this episode. It was great, real funny. Um, you know, and that Space Galley ends up in Springfield because they're driving around, and it's not even like they use like Stewie's dimension shit, like his inventions to go into an alternate universe where the Simpsons are. No, they're actually in the same country. They're in the same universe actually. So they just end up driving and they find Springfield, and like they don't even mention the state because they never mention like what state Springfield is in. It's funny. It's good shit. It's good. My favorite part was when they were arguing over Peter's beer over Duff beer from The Simpsons, and you find out that it's the same beer actually. That Peter's beer company is the Pawtucket. Like they it's actually Duff, but Peter doesn't know this, and like he doesn't know that the company is actually making the same beer as Duff, but putting their label on it. And that's when Homer and Peter start to like hate each other and they start to fight. They have like an epic fight scene at the end. It's like if you love the old Peter versus giant chicken fights, you're gonna love this. This was really good. This was just a real good one. You know, but basically they make up and have friends. You know, and there's like Homer's about to kill Peter, and he's like, "Say hi to Maud Flanders for me," and I thought that was real cool and subtle. You know, especially for like fans of The Simpsons. And then Peter, he comes back and say, "No, you say hi to Neil what's her name? That Goldman character's wife from the pharmacy. Neil Goldman's wife. I keep forgetting her name, but yeah, he said her name. But yeah, again, I never was a fan of the Goldmans. I just like even I know that they're trying to like stereotype Jews and stuff like that, but I never cared about them because they were not characters that were like entertaining. They never did anything. So yeah, but you know, it was just a good episode. It was really good. If you're into Family Guy and The Simpsons, you should definitely watch it. If you're into one of the two and don't like the other that much, I think you should still watch it just to check it out. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Tell me what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe, and later.